My name is Aurora Sinclair. I am 30 years old. 3 months ago, I flew for 18 long hours to attend my younger sister's wedding. When I finally arrived at the wedding venue, tired but excited, my own parents stopped me at the entrance. My mother looked me in the eye and said something I will never forget. Only family is allowed inside. Then she added, "You weren't invited." I stood there frozen. I was wearing the navy blue dress I had carefully picked out 2 months earlier. In my hands was a wedding gift for my sister. I had wrapped it myself the night before while sitting alone in my hotel room. I waited for my mother to smile. I waited for her to laugh and say she was joking. She didn't. There was no guilt on her face. No sadness. No hesitation. Just a closed door. The worst part? Every contract for that wedding had my name on it. The venue. The caterer. The florist. The photographer. Every single one. I had signed them all. My credit card was attached to every contract. Months earlier, I had paid the deposits without asking questions because I thought I was helping family. 3 days after the wedding, my mother finally called me. Not to apologize. Not to explain. She called because of a bill. A bill for $38,000. And what I told her next changed everything. But before I tell you that part, let me take you back to where this story really started. It was a rainy Tuesday evening in London. Rain tapped softly against my apartment window. I was finishing work when my phone started ringing. It was a FaceTime call from my younger sister, Brooke. I smiled and answered. The second the screen lit up, Brooke's excited face appeared. She was practically glowing. Behind her, I could see our mother, Diane, moving around the kitchen. "I'm engaged." Brooke screamed happily. She held her hand toward the camera. A beautiful diamond ring sparkled under the lights. "Garrett proposed last night at the vineyard." I immediately smiled. For a moment, I felt nothing but happiness. "Brooke, that's amazing. Congratulations." "Thank you," she said. She couldn't stop smiling. Garrett's family is already excited. The Caldwells even offered their barn for the wedding. I knew exactly who the Caldwells were. Everyone in our hometown of Cedar Bluff knew them. They owned several successful car dealerships across the county. Garrett Caldwell came from a wealthy family. He was polite, successful, and well-respected. "Mom, say hi to Aurora," Brooke said. My mother stepped into view. She smiled. But something about that smile felt strange. It never reached her eyes. "Hi, honey," she said. "Exciting news, right?" "It really is," I said. "When's the wedding?" "I'll start looking at flights." A strange silence followed. My mother looked at Brooke. Then she looked back at me. "Oh, don't spend money on a plane ticket yet," she said. "It's just a small wedding." I frowned. "Mom, it's Brooke's wedding. Of course I'm coming." My mother's smile tightened. "We'll see." Then she quickly changed the subject. "We have a lot of planning to do." A few seconds later she disappeared from the screen. Brooke spent the next 10 minutes talking about flowers, dresses, decorations, and colors. I listened carefully. I made notes. I smiled. But deep inside, something felt wrong. I couldn't explain it. At the time, I ignored the feeling. Looking back now, I wish I hadn't. Because that was the first warning. The first sign that my mother didn't want me there. 2 weeks later, my mother called me. Not Brooke. My mother. That alone told me something was coming. "Aurora," she said, "I need a favor." I leaned back in my chair. "What kind of favor?" She cleared her throat. "The venue needs a credit card on file." I already knew where this was heading. "The caterer does too," she continued. "And the florist. And the photographer." I sighed. "How much?" $41,000 total. I almost dropped the phone. $41,000? It's only paperwork, she said quickly. You'd just be signing the contracts. Mom, that's a lot of money. It isn't your money, she replied. It's just your name. I had heard promises like that before. When I was 22, I helped my father with a car loan. It took years to fix the damage. When I was 28, my mother asked for money because of a plumbing emergency. Later I discovered the money paid Brooke's college expenses. Still, I looked at it differently this time. This was my sister's wedding. I loved Brooke. I wanted her to be happy. So I said yes. That week I signed every contract. I told myself family helps family. Months passed. Wedding planning continued. But something strange happened. I was never included. Brooke created a wedding group chat. I wasn't added. I only discovered it because she accidentally forwarded one of the messages. The bridesmaids were voting on dresses. I wasn't included. I called Brooke. Do you want me to prepare a speech? I'll let you know, she said. She never did. A few days later, I asked about seating arrangements. She said she was busy. Then she stopped answering. I called my mother. Is there anything else I can help with? Everything is handled, she said. You don't need to worry. I never received a wedding invitation. Not a paper invitation. Not a digital invitation. Nothing. Still, I convinced myself it wasn't strange. I was her sister. Family doesn't need invitations. Right? 2 weeks before the wedding, Brooke posted a photo online. It was from her rehearsal dinner. She stood smiling with her bridesmaids. My mother stood proudly beside her. The caption read, "My whole family. My whole world." I stared at the picture. Again and again. I wasn't there. Nobody had invited me. For 11 minutes I sat staring at my phone. I almost called Brooke. I almost asked why. Instead, I made excuses for them. Maybe it was only for bridesmaids. Maybe they thought I couldn't arrive early. Maybe I was overthinking everything. The next morning I left for Tennessee. I had taken an entire week off work. My flights cost $1,400. The hotel cost nearly $700. Brooke's gift cost over $700 more. Before I even landed, I had spent almost $3,000. During the flight, I worked on a wedding toast. I had spent weeks writing it. I wanted to tell everyone how Brooke used to make me play wedding with her stuffed animals when we were kids. She always made herself the bride. She always made me the priest. I thought people would laugh. I practiced the speech quietly during the flight. I imagined Brooke smiling. I imagined my family laughing together. I imagined feeling included. When my plane landed in Chicago, I texted my mother. Just landed. One more flight. Can't wait to see everyone. 40 minutes passed. Then her reply arrived. Okay. Busy. See you tomorrow. That was it. 5 words. No excitement. No warmth. No welcome. I stared at the message. Something hurt inside my chest. But I ignored it. I told myself everything would be different once I arrived. 18 hours later, I reached Cedar Bluff. I checked into the Magnolia Inn. The woman at the front desk smiled. Are you here for the Caldwell wedding? I nodded. She smiled warmly. How wonderful. I forced a smile back. That night I hung my dress in the closet. I placed Brooke's gift carefully on the desk. Then I called her. Straight to voicemail. I texted my mother. What time should I arrive tomorrow? An hour later she replied. Ceremony at 2 p.m. Nothing else. No breakfast together. No invitation to arrive early. No excitement. Just a time. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked into the mirror. I had flown across the ocean. Spent thousands of dollars. Signed contracts worth over 40,000. Yet my family barely spoke to me. That night I couldn't sleep. I started thinking about everything. The forgotten birthdays. The ignored calls. The holidays spent alone. The family photos that never included me. The way my mother introduced Brooke as her child while acting like I wasn't standing there. The more I thought about it, the more painful it became. Still, I told myself one final lie. Maybe tomorrow would be different. Maybe my mother was stressed. Maybe Brooke was overwhelmed. Maybe tomorrow someone would hug me and say, "We're so glad you're here." I fell asleep holding on to that hope. I didn't know it would be the last time. The next afternoon I drove to Meadow Creek Barn. The venue looked beautiful. White fences. String lights. Wildflowers. Everything looked like a dream. Guests filled the parking lot. People laughed and walked toward the entrance. I grabbed Brooke's gift and headed inside. Then I saw my father. For a second, our eyes met. His face changed immediately. His smile disappeared. Instead of greeting me, he turned around and walked inside. My stomach tightened. I kept walking. Then the barn doors opened. My mother stepped outside. She stood directly in front of me, blocking the entrance. "Aurora." "Hi, Mom." She didn't smile. She didn't hug me. "What are you doing here?" I blinked. "What? What are you doing here?" she repeated. "I'm here for Brooke's wedding." Her expression never changed. "You need to leave." My heart stopped. "I flew 18 hours. Lower your voice." "Mom, I'm your daughter." She stepped closer. "Only family is allowed inside." Then she whispered the words that shattered me. "You weren't invited." I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. The gift box suddenly felt heavy. "I signed every contract for this wedding." "This isn't about money," she said. "It's about what's appropriate." I stared at her. Nothing made sense. Then another woman walked outside. Garrett's mother. Margaret Caldwell. She smiled politely. "Diane, everything okay?" My mother's face changed instantly. A fake smile appeared. "Oh, everything's fine." Margaret looked at me. "Who is this?" My mother laughed. "A distant relative." My entire body went numb. Margaret frowned. "I thought you only had one daughter." The silence felt endless. Then my mother smiled again. "I do." I felt my heart break. And in that moment I understood. She hadn't forgotten me. She had erased me. 4 years. And now the truth was standing right in front of me. I stood there staring at my mother. A distant relative. That was what she called me. Not her daughter. Not Brooke's sister. Not family. Just a stranger standing outside the wedding. For a moment, I wanted to walk straight into the barn. I wanted to tell everyone the truth. I wanted Margaret Caldwell, Garrett, and every guest inside to know exactly who I was. I wanted them to know whose name was on every contract. Whose credit card paid the deposits. Whose money made this wedding possible. But I didn't. Instead, I looked at my mother. Then I looked at my father standing quietly in the doorway. He still hadn't said a single word. Not one. I looked down at the gift in my hands. Slowly, I bent down and placed it on the stone step. "It's for Brooke," I said quietly. For the first time, I saw relief on my mother's face. She thought it was over. She thought I would leave and stay silent. She thought I would keep protecting her lies. "Thank you, Aurora," she said. I held up my hand. "Don't." She stopped talking. I heard everything. Then I turned around and walked away. I walked past the flowers. Past the guests. Past the decorations. Past the wedding I helped pay for. When I reached my rental car, I got inside and closed the door. For several seconds, I simply sat there. Then I cried. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just quietly. The kind of crying that hurts deep inside your chest. The kind where years of pain finally find a way out. Through the open window, I heard music begin inside the barn. The ceremony was starting. Without me. I started the car and drove away. In the mirror, the wedding venue became smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely. And strangely, leaving felt stronger than staying. Back at the Magnolia Inn, I kicked off my shoes and sat on the bed. My wedding toast was still open on my phone. I stared at it for a moment. Then I deleted it. Every word. Every memory. Gone. A few minutes later, I opened my laptop. I pulled up the vendor contracts. One by one, I read them carefully. The venue. The caterer. The florist. The photographer. Every contract listed the same person. Aurora Sinclair. Every balance was still unpaid. The deposits were already gone. But the final payments were due after the wedding. The total remaining balance was $38,000. $38,000. For a wedding I wasn't allowed to attend. I sat silently staring at the screen. Hours passed. Around 10 that night, my phone rang. It was my Aunt Ruth. My mother's older sister. Aunt Ruth never sugarcoated anything. If she had something to say, she said it. Aurora Sinclair, where are you? She asked. At the hotel. I didn't see you at the wedding. I took a deep breath. Then I told her everything. The entrance. My mother's words. Being called a cousin. Being told I wasn't family. Aunt Ruth listened without interrupting. When I finished, the line stayed silent. Then she spoke. She told people you don't exist. Pretty much. Aunt Ruth sighed heavily. At the reception tonight, your mother stood up and talked about her family. My stomach tightened. What did she say? She said, Frank, myself, and our Brooke. I closed my eyes. Even now, she was pretending I wasn't real. Those contracts, Aunt Ruth suddenly asked. Whose name are they under? Mine. All of them? Every single one. Another long silence followed. Then her voice became very calm. Very serious. Aurora, listen carefully. I'm listening. Your mother told an entire room that you don't exist. Yeah. You don't owe them $38,000. I didn't answer. Because deep down, I already knew she was right. The next morning I woke up to a notification. Brooke had posted her wedding photos online. There were pictures of the ceremony. Pictures of the reception. Pictures of family members smiling together. One photo showed both families standing side by side. Everyone was there except me. The caption read, surrounded by everyone who matters. I stared at the words. Everyone who matters. Then I opened my email. The invoices had arrived. $38,000. All addressed to me. At that moment something changed inside me. Not anger. Not revenge. Something calmer. Something stronger. Clarity. I finally understood the truth. I had spent years trying to earn a place in my family. Years giving money. Years showing up. Years accepting less than I deserved. And it never mattered. No amount of sacrifice would make them choose me. So for the first time, I chose myself. That afternoon, Brooke left me a voicemail. I listened carefully. Hey Aurora. The wedding was amazing. Everything was perfect. Perfect. The word stung. Sorry, things were kind of weird yesterday. Kind of weird? She made it sound like someone had forgotten a napkin. Not like her sister had been thrown out. Then came the worst part. Mom said it was for the best. I sat up straight. Mom said it was for the best. That meant Brooke knew. She knew before the wedding. She knew I wasn't welcome. And she allowed it. The betrayal hurt even more than my mother's lies. At the end of the message, Brooke said, "Thanks for helping with the vendor stuff. You're the best big sister." I almost laughed. For years, she only called me that when she needed something. I didn't call her back. That night, I searched online about contract responsibility. The answer was simple. The contract holder had authority. That meant me. I could approve payments. Or refuse them. The next morning, I started making calls. First, the venue. Meadow Creek Barn. "This is Julie." "Hi, Julie. This is Aurora Sinclair." "Oh yes, Miss Sinclair. I need to inform you that I am removing my payment authorization." Silence. "I'm sorry? I will not be paying the remaining balance." Julie sounded surprised. "Is there a dispute?" "No." "Then may I ask why?" "Because I was not invited to the event." Another pause. Then she said quietly, "I understand. I made the same call to the caterer. Then the florist. Then the photographer. 4 calls. 12 minutes. No yelling. No threats. Just one word. No." For the first time in days, I slept peacefully. The next morning I changed my flight and returned to London. The moment I landed, I turned on my phone. No messages. No missed calls. No concern. Nothing. But I knew that wouldn't last. The vendors would start calling soon. And they did. 2 days later, my phone rang. "Mom." I answered. Her voice was unusually sweet. "Hi, honey." I almost rolled my eyes. "Hi. Listen, I got a strange call from the venue." "I'm sure you did. They said you removed payment authorization." "I did." Silence. Then she laughed nervously. "Okay, but how do we handle the bill?" "We don't." "What?" "You handle it." The sweetness vanished instantly. "Aurora, don't be dramatic." I took a deep breath. "You told people I wasn't your daughter." "That's not what happened." "It is exactly what happened. You are overreacting." I looked out my apartment window. "No. I'm reacting." Her voice grew sharper. "After everything I've done for you?" "There it is." "What does that mean?" "You always bring up everything you've done for me whenever I refuse to do something for you." "Aurora. You told a stranger you only have one daughter." Silence. For several seconds neither of us spoke. Finally she said, "Your father is very stressed." Of course. The guilt. Her favorite weapon. If something happens to him? I interrupted. Dad stood there and watched. "Aurora." "No. He made his choice." The line went dead. She hung up. 40 minutes later she called again. This time she was furious. "The vendors are calling me." "Good. They are sending invoices to my email." "They should. Do you know how embarrassing this is?" I laughed softly. Probably about as embarrassing as being called a cousin at my own sister's wedding. She didn't answer. Instead she yelled, "You are ruining this family." "No." I spoke calmly. "You did that." Another click. Another hang up. The next day Brooke called. She was crying. Big dramatic tears. "Aurora, please. Garrett and I can't afford this. I listened quietly. We just got married. I know. We don't have $38,000. I know. Please help. I asked only one question. Did you know Mom planned to turn me away? Silence. Then a weak answer. I thought it would be easier. There it was. The truth. She knew. Maybe not every detail. But enough. You knew. Aurora. You knew. She started crying harder. But now I heard something different. Not guilt. Not regret. Fear. Fear of the bill. Fear of consequences. Not sadness over losing me. When she realized I wouldn't change my mind, she hung up too. Later that afternoon, my father called. That almost never happened. Aurora. Hi, Dad. Your mother is upset. I know. Long silence. Then he said. Can you be flexible? I closed my eyes. Dad, did you know she told people I wasn't your daughter? Nothing. No answer. Just breathing. Then the call disconnected. He couldn't answer because the truth was too painful. Aunt Ruth, however, had no problem with truth. Without asking permission, she called Margaret Caldwell, the groom's mother. When she told me later, I couldn't believe it. She explained everything. Everything. That Diane actually had 2 daughters. That I was the older one. That I lived in London. That I paid the deposits. That I flew 18 hours. That I was turned away at the door. Margaret was shocked. Completely shocked. The woman she thought was a distant relative was actually the bride's sister. And the person paying for the wedding. The truth spread quickly. Cedar Bluff was a small town. Very small. People talked. By the following week, everyone knew. Church members. Neighbors. Store owners. Everyone. Diane had hidden her oldest daughter. Then sent her the bill. People were horrified. For years my mother had carefully protected her image. Now the image was cracking. Not because someone lied about her. Because someone finally told the truth. A few weeks later, Brooke sent a long text. She apologized. Sort of. But as I read it, I noticed something. Every sentence focused on her problems. Garrett was angry. His parents were upset. The loan payments were difficult. Their apartment deposit was late. Then she finally asked. Could you pay half? I stared at the screen. Not once did she mention what happened to me. Not once. The whole message was about money. Again. I replied carefully. I'm sorry you're struggling. And I meant it. But I can't help financially. Then I added. When you're ready to talk about treating me like family instead of a wallet, I'm here. She never replied. 1 month later, something unexpected happened. An email arrived from my father. The subject line simply said. From Dad. My hand shook as I opened it. Dad never wrote long emails. Never. But this one was different. He admitted everything. He admitted he stood there and did nothing. He admitted he was a coward. He admitted he should have walked me inside. He apologized. A real apology. Not excuses. Not blame. Just honesty. For several minutes I stared at the screen. Tears filled my eyes. Because after everything that happened, someone finally told the truth. I didn't answer right away. A week later I sent a short reply. Thank you. That means more than you know. I wasn't ready to forgive everything. But I left the door open. Just a little. 6 months passed. Life slowly changed. I earned a promotion at work. I started therapy. Not because of the wedding. because of everything that came before it. My therapist helped me understand something important. I spent my whole life believing love had to be earned. If I worked harder, gave more, sacrificed more, maybe people would finally choose me. That belief controlled my life. The wedding finally broke it. Aunt Ruth and I began talking regularly. Every other Sunday. Coffee for her. Tea for me. She kept me updated. Diane and Frank had paid off part of the debt. Brooke and Garrett were paying the rest through loans. Their marriage was struggling. Not because of money alone. Because trust had been damaged from the very beginning. And my mother? She never apologized. According to Aunt Ruth, she called the entire situation Aurora's tantrum. That hurt less than it once would have. Because I finally understood something. You can't force someone to see your value. They either do. Or they don't. I didn't hate my mother. That surprised people. But hate requires energy. And I was tired. Instead, I accepted the truth. She loved the version of me that sacrificed. The version that paid. The version that stayed quiet. The moment I stopped doing those things, she stopped knowing what to do with me. That's sad. But it's true. Today, when I look back at that wedding, I don't remember the flowers. I don't remember the decorations. I don't remember the fairy lights. I remember standing at that entrance. And realizing I deserved better. For years I thought boundaries were cruel. I thought saying no made me selfish. I thought being a good daughter meant accepting anything. Now I know better. A boundary isn't revenge. It isn't punishment. It's self-respect. It's looking at someone and saying, you don't get to hurt me anymore. The wedding cost me money. The deposits. The flights. The hotel. The gift. More than $6,000 disappeared. But what I gained was worth far more. I gained freedom. I stopped chasing people who kept closing doors. I stopped buying love. I stopped proving my worth. Most importantly, I found myself. The version of me that existed before guilt. Before manipulation. Before years of trying to earn a place at a table where nobody saved me a seat. People often ask whether I regret refusing to pay the $38,000. The answer is simple. Not for a second. Because that wasn't the price of a wedding. It was the price of my freedom. And it was worth every penny. I didn't lose my family at Meadow Creek Barn. I lost an illusion. The illusion that if I sacrificed enough, people would finally love me the way I deserved. What I found instead was something better. My voice. My boundaries. My self-respect. And for the first time in my life, those things belonged to me. The wedding ended in one day. But the lesson stayed forever. Never pay for a seat at a table where people keep pretending you don't belong. Build your own table. Sit at the head of it. And welcome only the people who truly see you. Because real family doesn't erase you when you're inconvenient. Real family makes room for you. And now, finally, I've made room for myself. Here are 2 strong YouTube-style ending lines. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next emotional family drama. Until next time, stay strong, know your worth, and remember, real love never asks you to erase yourself to belong.